So now all of a sudden FGO just wants to start popping off by dropping just a whole bunch of new servants and a whole bunch of events on both versions of the game. So now we have a whole bunch of content to do. Now, I said it a few days ago, like I was really hoping Galatea was going to be very good because she's a single target arts berserker. So really between her and Musashi, I was like, you could basically have like the whole game and the whole arts meta on lockdown if she happens to be good. And after looking at her details, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I think she is quite good. She's better than what I was expecting, but not super nuts broken, if that makes sense. And one of the first issues I have is when you look at her deck, she does not have the ability to arts loop on her own, which is very unfortunate. They're clearly going for a more Buster Arts hybrid with her having 5 hits on her 1 quick card, 3 on the 1 arts, 3 on the 3 busters, and 5 on her extra. Now, 3 on the 1 buster with a 0.6% NP charge attack feels a little low to me, and it feels like they're trying to kind of balance her NP gen and like her ability to loop. Now we'll get to her NP. Her NP's a little nuts, so we'll get to that later. So I already know about that before people start typing in the comments and start yelling at me. But her deck is not exactly what I think we could have used, right? Like I think we could have used maybe 2 arts, 2 buster, 1 quick. That could have been really good, but I understand what they're going for. Plus, on the bright side, it does give her the ability to do a brave chain of like a buster, NP, then arts card, and then extra attack brave chain, which is going to be very good because the buster lead does buff the damage of the following arts card and of the extra attack, which is pretty good. And the hits themselves aren't bad. It's just, yeah, I'm a little disappointed with the hits, but everything else I think is very fine. Her first skill starts very strong. She's getting a 30% buff to her arts and buster cards for 3 turns, gives herself a 100% buff removal resist for 1 time for 3 turns, and she charges her NP by 20%, all in a 6-turn cooldown. Honestly, a very strong skill. With her being an arts buster hybrid, giving her the ability to buff both of those cards is very good, because obviously her arts cards should be doing decent damage, you know, just relatively decent with her having double Castoria around, but this makes it to where her buster cards aren't falling behind, and with her NP gain being a little lacking and her only having 1 arts card, giving her just that extra 20% NP gauge is really going to help her out a lot, and she's able to resist having her buffs just taken off of her, which I think is very good. It's not something a lot of characters have. Like most characters have like debuff removal resist, or they have like debuff immunity, but the actual ability to resist having your buffs taken is a little more rare. It's becoming a bit more common, but it is very nice that she does have that, because then she can't lose her buffs. Then her second skill, her survivability skill, is very strong. It gives her, I mean, both of these effects are super good, because the first one is a stackable guts that lasts for 3 turns. That's very powerful, and let's keep in mind, she revives with 3k HP. Like, she's getting a stackable guts that's very strong. It's making, like, 3k HP is almost to the point where we're going to start making a comeback, right? It's not like the 1 HP where you just get tapped again and you die. It's very strong. And then she gets 2 hits of 100% defense. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, like, this is not like Dokkan Battle or something, right? Where you're like, oh, I have like 100% defense, and you know, my defense is just high, like I can just tank hits. It's like, no. 100% defense in FGO means you take no damage. You don't get hurt, dude. And that's what she has. Like, for 2 hits, she takes no damage, right? It's insane. And honestly, they could have just been like 2 hits of invincibility, but the fact that they went with like raw defense means that if the enemy has like sure hit or pierce invincibility, this is going to supersede that, because you would need pierce defense to get around it, which pierce defense is not all that common. So this is actually a very strong defensive skill. It is very good, because she basically gets 2 free hits and then she comes back even after those wear off. Then finally, I think this is probably her weakest skill, her 3rd skill, but I think that just goes to show how strong her kit is overall. So she regens 2000 HP for 3 turns and removes party's debuff. So everybody's regenning 2k HP and they're getting their debuffs removed like once the skill is popped. So I mean, a 2k HP like would be bad if it was just for herself, but for the entire party it's very, very strong, especially if you factor in like, okay, she can pop her guts, come back with like 3k HP, and then the next turn, or like at the end of that turn, she's gonna be back up to like 5k. Like, that's pretty fine. The only problem is she is a berserker, so you have a lot of this like regenning and coming back to life, but it's like the reason she has that is because she can quickly lose that again, because everybody's going to be slamming her for super effective damage. Then finally there's her NP. Now this is what I meant by it was a little crazy. It has 9 hits, okay? And so the problem with like her arts card and everything, not gone, bro. It's, who cares that her one arts card has 3 hits? Her NP has 9 hits. You're going to be refunding your NP pretty easily with this. With Castoria and everything, yeah, totally easy. Not going to be a problem, dude. And then it does, you know, we already kind of went over these details. We got this in the news. Basically, it reduces enemy NP gauge by 1, and it buffs her NP damage every time she uses her NP by 20 to 40%. Meaning it's going to be very similar to like Shiro Muramasa's, where every time he loops his NP, it gets stronger and stronger. And because of the fact that she should be able to pretty easily loop her NP, you should be able to get this up to at least a bare minimum stack of 60% by the 3rd time you use her NP, meaning you should be doing some pretty good damage. And it's not like her attack is super low, like it's 11,400, so it's kind of like mid-ish attack. Like, it's not bad, but it's not like exceptional. It's not great either, right? It's not like, it might be, maybe it's a little low, right? Her HP is quite high, so the whole survivability thing should kind of work out for her with like 14k HP. So I'm personally going to be doing a summoning video for Galatea. I think she's very good, especially since my JP is kind of bad right now, and getting any really solid art servant like this would dramatically help me out. Because it's like the Scotty thing, like instead of having to use like, oh, I have to use Atalanta for my archer, I have to use Parvati as my lancer, you know, I gotta go find some quick AoE saber to use for them, right? Instead of having to do all that, you're like, no, just Berserker, like just use Lancelot or Edmund Dantes. Same thing for arts, right? You know, Musashi or Space Ishtar is like the goal, is like the go-to like AoE arts for that, you know, farming and everything. And then for single target, I think Galatea is going to be that single target berserker that you want to bring into every fight, and she's very, very good. So I would recommend doing some summons for her. She's very, very cute as well, like if that's something you care about. Her first ascension is yeah, it's definitely a thing. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure to, you know, leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace. Late, guys.